why do you start with introduce your family? Like each one of you introduce yourselves.
Very good.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Scott. Scott Walker. I've been a foster parent for about 7 years now. We mainly focus on teenage boys.
I love that.
We have 3 of our own children, and this is our 5th teenager we've raised, and we have another one at home that he came to our house about 1.5 years ago, and I keep saying he's our last one, but the last 3 have been our last one. So God keeps calling us to do more. So
that's awesome.
I'm Austin. I've been with them for about 3 years now, and just moved into college, getting ready to be a Charlotte 49er and major in physical therapy.
Physical therapy. I might come to your dormitory just, when I hurt myself by sleeping.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
My name's Debbie. Scott and I have been married for about going on 32 years. He asked me to marry him the night we met him, and I told him he would never find anybody to marry him. But here we are. We looked into fostering when I had a friend 25 years ago tell me that she was put into a jail cell on the weekends because they had nowhere to put her. And it was my first experience hearing about fostering. But when we looked into it, everybody told us terrible stories. Don't get a boy, they'll do something to your girls. Don't get a girl, they'll do something to your boy. And it scared us enough to wait until our last one was out of the house. We realized we didn't screw up on them too bad, and we checked back into it, and we didn't know what we were going to do after we got certified. They asked us what we wanted, boys, girls, tall, short, whatever. We asked them for teenage tall boys. I'm just joking.
I've watched the Insta family movie.
That's what we always get, though. Austin was our second one, and they just seemed to hang out with us. We don't know what we're going to get. God just keeps sending us teenage boys. So
wow.
Here we are.
So how many have you had total? How many have you fostered?
3. Now our family fostered also, so we have had other children in our house or in our children's houses. Of course, when our kids were going to school, we always had, the drop-in, stay for a month or 2.
Right.
So, and we were on the mission field for several years, so it was never, we always called it rubber walls. There's always room for somebody else at the dinner table or in the bedroom, or they just come and hang out and stay with us.
That's awesome, yes. So Austin, was this your first family to move into?
No, this is my 4th home.
So your 4th home?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you remember when you came into care?
I was 13, so whatever math that is, 5 years ago.
Yes, 5 years ago.
2019.
Yeah, but still, 13, and you're now 18.
Yeah.
5 homes, right?
4.
4 homes.
Yep.
Still, that's a lot of homes to deal with,
one of our fosters was in 11 homes the year prior to coming to ours.
Wow.
And then we gave him a stable environment, and he is the first kid in his known family to graduate high school, and he stayed with us for 3.5 years.
Wow, that's
so
really cool.
we typically make the commitment at the beginning and then overcome the obstacles
along the way,
just like we do with our own kids. We've raised 3. They were teenagers. They had growing pains. All kids are the same. They're all annoying, but it's the love. God adopts us despite our failures.
Right.
So when our kids, even our biologicals, they are pain in the necks too. Our fosters have been times they were pains, but we just overcame, and that's life. You just deal with what you've been dealt, and then love them through it. Austin's been different in that he hasn't been hard to love through it. He's such a sweet kid.
That's good to know. Yes.
And we have a big family, so all of our kids have taken on. He's closer with our kids than he is with us most of the time.
Yeah, that's how it usually happens.
Yeah.
My kids want to spend time with their uncle, my brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Than me. When are we going? You go, please. Just
All of our children are local as well, so they help.
that
with
helps.
The process.
Yeah. Mhm.
And Austin's, like Debbie said, very close with our children. And our children at first, they were very leery of us bringing in teenage kids because they have children, but since then, all of our children have decided they want to be foster parents.
That's awesome.
So they've seen how positive it is and the change that happens. And we've dealt with the loss of a grandchild recently, and our son-in-law, who we thought would be more resistant to being a foster, is on board.
That's good. It's amazing when we go through difficult time on what it teaches us. You know? Yeah. So Austin, do you come from a big family? Are you the only one? Do you have brothers and sisters?
I don't. I had two little sisters that I started foster care with. We were separated right before I came here. I come from a family of 4. It was my mom, my 2 little sisters, but we have a lot of extended family. I didn't know any of them. So it was just us 4. And then us 3 stuck together for the first 3 homes before we were separated.
Right. Yeah. Do you still see mom and dad?
Yeah, my mom lives in Tennessee. I'm actually going to her wedding in a couple of weeks.
Oh.
She helped me move in yesterday. She came and saw me.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a good connection there.
That's good. Yes, absolutely. And that's the education we try to teach for us as foster parents. That we love our kids and we try to be the link between their bio as well. You know,
right.
That if we can heal, we're gonna really extend that towards them. Have grace, unconditional love, and non-judgmental attitude towards yes. No matter how you feel, we try. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, most people, as you mentioned, like stigma about teenagers, like what surprised you? What were you worried about? But then once you got a teenager, you're like, oh, come on, you know, what was I thinking, you know?
One of the things I was worried about was, honestly, rebellious nature that teenagers have. Ours had it, and we were wondering what it was going to be like to deal with someone else's. But we found that those issues really aren't the big issue. Honestly, the big issue is, and I told one of our boys recently, you know, the state has asked us to turn you into a man.
Right.
So our job is to teach you what that means. And one of the things is to teach them that they need to be persistent and meet goals.
Right.
Even if the goal is just mowing the grass.
Correct.
And sometimes in the past they have had opportunity to even be successful because their family didn't have high expectations of them. And we have high expectations. So we want excellence when we just mow the grass.
Right.
And learning that has really, not with Austin so much because he's been a hard worker from day one, but others learning that they need to complete a task. And coming from an unstructured environment, they don't always know how to do that. And it's fun to see them see themselves successful.
Right.
Yes.
So what about mom? What did you find that you did not expect? Or the stigma that you kind of like, okay, that wasn't true?
Probably the biggest thing that I've dealt with is like our bios, they're given to you as a small child.
Right.
You teach them this is hot, this is cold, we don't run in the road. So they learn rules from day one. When God sends you a 15 or 16-year-old, you don't know what they've learned.
Right.
You don't know if they know the difference in hot and cold, how to make macaroni and cheese, how to run the washing machine. So every day you feel like you're, and I've told them before, I said, I don't want to feel like I'm making rules for you as we go, but I don't know you don't know it until I find out you don't know it.
Right.
And so it's constantly, okay, we don't do that. This is how you clean the toilet. This is how you clean the floor. And sometimes I have to, Scott will get on me for, pull back a little bit. And I'm like, they need to know basics. And Scott's very structured. He's military. I was raised military. So we do have expectations for the kids. And we don't know how far they'll go. Our 3 bios, we had 1 that was a brainiac, 2 that were super athletic. Couldn't get it. My youngest one, I couldn't discipline her for not being a phenomenal child out on the field.
Right.
But she started college at 13. So you don't know where your kids' strengths and weaknesses are until they reveal them to you.
Right.
So one of them are A+ student. She did have consequences if she got a B. But if our BC students didn't get A's, they were not disciplined. You have to find where their peak is. And when our young men come to us, we didn't know how far they could go, and I wasn't going to cap them until I realized that they hit their roof, their ceiling, and then we maintained it. Then they had consequences when they started falling off of it.
Right.
So you have to see how far they'll go.
Like you knew they had it in them,
Absolutely.
and you're just helping them get there. So I'm a dad of teenagers as well. You know, the one thing that for me as a parent, something that I really realized that I had to do was having teenagers. I had to remove the dad cap, but put on the mentor cap. Like, hey, I want to mentor my child or my teenager to do whatever they need to do as a mentor would do, you know,
Right.
rather than being a dad in a way. And for me, that helped me, you know, because I knew what would a mentor need and what's the mentor's expectation, you know? So rather than be dragged into the little things they don't do, for me, I was like, okay, if we're hitting the goal here, I'm a mentor, I'm helping, and also leave it for them as well, rather than tell them, but how can I live as a mentorship person, dad, in order for them to observe and say, oh, okay, I see you do so I would like to do the same. You're not just telling me, but I'm watching you do, you know? What would you say that has been for you?
One of the ways that Austin would tell you I'm pretty strict, I imagine, but I think all my kids would say that. But what I do is I give the kids enough rope for them to get in trouble with it, and then I start pulling it back in.
Right.
That way I see more of what they're prone to do, and then it gives me opportunity to say, okay, that's, like Debbie said, that's not how we're going to do this. We're going to do this, this, and this. And for homework, for instance, let's make sure we get our homework done. Beginning of the semester, you have 100%. Every time you fail, that percentage comes down. So let's work on keeping that up. And at first, and it's been regular with 2 out of 3, that I had to come up with more structure for them to be able to be successful in that. Others, you know, we do have brainiac kids, and they wind up going to college, and they didn't require as much supervision. However, some we have to have daily written logs, old school. This was completed, teacher's signature. This was completed, teacher's signature. But is what we get a success from that.
Right.
And they get sick of doing it, so they do it. That will get to the point where they don't have to be supervised near as close to get those basic things done.
Right. Thank you. You know, so as a foster parent, I meet people who say, well, you know, you're an Aryan. You can do that, you know?
Right.
Or sometimes they will say, you know, Peter, I cannot do it because I'll be afraid to get attached to the child and give them back away. Like, I cannot do that. And for me, I've said, no, actually, that fear, that attachment is what every foster parent needs. You know,
Yes.
you need, because our kids most time don't have those attachments.
Right.
So the more you're attached to them, the more you can help them too. So the one fear they are scared of being foster parent is actually the one that works for them to be foster parent. Does it make sense?
Oh, yes.
So have you met any of those questions where people say, well, I can't foster, I'm afraid to get attached?
Like I say, we have a few friends that will not foster, haven't committed to fostering for that reason. And the funny thing is, I know their weaknesses, I know what they love, and I've actually contacted the Baptist Association telling them, if you come across this child who has these attributes, let me know, because I may know the person who would be a great foster parent. They don't know it yet,
Right.
but I'm going to be like the mom that sees the boy and the girl and say, you guys would be a good match.
Be a match, yes.
So I'm going to be probably blindsiding them with
I'm
some-
going to prompt Debbie with an awesome story. Legend meeting his dad.
This young man came into our family as our daughter's foster son. Our family had 4 babies within 3.5 weeks. Legend came to us about 1.5 years, 2 years later, and he was the same age as all the babies within a few months. Beautiful, cute little boy. He would save food in his cheeks until he looked like a chipmunk.
He was afraid of not eating.
He was afraid.
He was 18 months old, and he
would-
would store food in his mouth.
And he was just a beautiful coloring, and my daughter is short and blonde, and here she's carrying Legend, who's probably half her height, at 3 years old. He, like you said when you were talking about a child earlier, came to her in the middle of the night with a soggy diaper, and we scrambled for a day. Car seats closed. People just started just bringing everything to us.
And our daughter is a single, unmarried, no children. At the time, she was 26 years old, school teacher, and she taught the Baptist Children's Home into letting her be a foster parent because she wanted to be part of the program. Mm-hmm. And when he first came to us, we were just, honestly, everybody was in love first thing. He had the sweetest heart. He was the sweetest little boy. And apparently nobody knew who his dad was. So,
right. They found him in a motel room with 4 siblings. The other 3 were teenagers. Mom was doing things to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Again, not any of the kids' situation. But Legend did come to us, and after he went back to the Baptist home, they had found his father, who did not know he existed, just through DNA testing of men that she had talked about. They met him at a playground, and he showed up. I don't know if you ever have seen Forrest Gump, the movie, when
Yes,
he met
right.
his son the first time,
Yeah.
and they were sitting in front of the TV watching TV. The gal at the Baptist home, I touch base with her regularly just to see how he's doing. She said it was the cutest thing she had ever seen. He showed up and they were dressed almost identical. He had brought a few toys for Legend and brought one out at a time until he lost interest, and they played for about 4 hours. But this man had no idea Legend existed, and he ended up getting custody of him and back into his family. But it was such a beautiful story, hearing that they were not raised together and the similarities that the father and the son had. It was just beautiful, and we were so excited for the father to
And having
find out
said
he had
all
a
that,
child.
we were very attached to Legend. And
Yeah.
our son-in-law,
Absolutely, yeah.
our son-in-law more so, and he wanted to start fostering now so he could get Legend, because he didn't want, Drew was afraid because she was a single educator, she wasn't going to be the best place for him, and she knew he was temporary. And our family was scrambling for that same reason. The attachment had grown. But when we saw the situation he went to, we were all just so relieved, and it was such a blessing to get to have that experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It was amazing.
Yes. I've had 42 children.
Wow.
You know? So like 32 of them have either gone back home or being adopted by another family. So you can imagine just, being there for that child, but at some point knowing, hey, I gotta say goodbye. And as a foster parent, maybe that's the one thing that no one trained me. No one really prepared me how to say goodbye.
Right.
And those were the hardest. But I think for me, they have encouraged me even to foster more. Rather than discourage me, for me, I think seeing that reunification, seeing a mom who, literally you lost hope in the mom, but turns around, and they're able to have their kids back. Because you're there to help is the hardest, but also the most joyful, and hopeful when kids go back to mom and dad.
We always keep ours. How does that happen? I don't know.
We make the commitment, and we work through the struggles.
Well, our last one came to us. He was supposed to be a weekend placement. And after 10 months, I'm like, hey, I still got your kid. And we do have guardianship of Jaden now.
Right.
But, at that point, we had already said, we're not going to do any more. We didn't tell God that yet.
Yeah, me too. I received Anthony for the weekend. Just the weekend. And he was my first kid to adopt at 13. I said for the weekend I can do, but no more than that.
Right.
But little did I know.
Right. Yeah, we said no more, we're done. They're like, we just need you for a day or two.
The plans of mice and men.
Yeah, so Austin, if I could ask you, what's your view? Because most people haven't lived the foster care. Like, if you could describe foster care to you, what would you say? In a good and bad, whichever way you want.
I'd say the worst part is you're treated not as a person necessarily.
Right.
I know I came in at 13 and turned 16. I believe that's when you can start speaking up for yourself and making decisions for yourself. But I was pretty much ignored, so I was having to go advocate for myself because I was talking to my social worker and she wasn't representing me. That's probably the downside is you're kind of overlooked as a person. You're more just moved around and placed where they want you, wherever it's convenient. Not a lot of people are willing to go through the struggle with you like they've mentioned. But the good part is, like I said, I mean, all the connections. I've been to all the schools in my area. I have so many friends, so many people to lean on, and just so many people that have loved on me and showed me that I mattered, that I didn't necessarily get before I came in care. So that while there is this state that pretty much kind of just treats you like an inconvenience, there are people that in the midst of it, they love on you and show you that you're cared for.
Yeah.
Austin went before the judge to argue that the state wasn't doing him right and wound up being successful.
And to me, it's every day, every kid of mine. Like if I wasn't there, like I'm not saying I'm an angel in any way, but if I didn't advocate for that child,
Right.
like I don't know who else would,
Right.
or even sometimes their parents, like you call the parents and say, have you asked these questions? Have to show up, but no one is there to guide them through,
Right.
Yeah. What would you tell to other teenagers who are, they are 13, they are in the middle of the road. They are not sure about how to deal with the past. They're not sure about where to go. Like, what would you advise, or what helped you somehow from 13 onwards, kind of like make it for you?
Right. It's hard to explain. I think it starts with like all the homes I went to. Very, very faithful, God-loving parents. So I think I had a lot of unexplainable just peace from that. But besides that, like everything was changing constantly. It was just really hard to take a deep breath and enjoy where I was. So I'd say just enjoying the time you have with the parents that you have, making good connections, valuable connections. I still talk to my old parents from time to time. So I'd say just trying to enjoy where you are, not so much worry about your future, because there's good people that will set you up.
Yeah.
So just stick through that.
Yeah. What's the other question? You're going to college right now, so what would you also encourage someone who they love school, or they're struggling in school, what helped you? Like, what helped you be able to get better grades, or see as an education as a way that could help you in the future?
Right. Well, I love school personally, and I don't know yet what to expect from my college journey or what I'm gonna get from that yet. I just know if I don't end up using my major, I'll build valuable connections. This is a nice area to do internships and set up my future. So I think I was given an advantage being hardwired to just love having friends and making connections with my teachers at school. It just made it really easy for me. So as long as the social aspect of it is good, you enjoy being there every day, it's not seen as a chore getting up for school, the grades, it just comes with it.
Yes, that's pretty awesome.
One of the things we found about college too in North Carolina is that we have the NC Reach program, which gives us funding from 18 to 21 and further if you're still in school, that isn't available to other people. So Austin is going to be able to complete his college career without any financial encumbrances. They're paying for everything. We also have the Baptist Children's Home in North Carolina who's involved, and they help reimburse. We have individuals that they do the scholarships through the Baptist Children's Home. We have individuals who will supply a computer. We have, I think there's even some people who will donate money towards vehicles, and the state also has a small stipend that they'll reimburse to help cover a vehicle. We had a vehicle loss because of a car accident on Austin's graduation day, It wasn't his fault. He was T-boned. Everybody was okay, thankfully. And so he's in the middle of looking for a new car. So while we're doing that, there's resources out there and people out there who want to help these kids be wildly successful.
Yes.
And that is one of the things that the kids, I don't think, understand. Our first foster, it's hard for him to accept that help, and he's kind of struggled as a result of not receiving it. And he actually, when he first left our home, he went back to his another community where his family was, and that family was still dysfunctional, and he's back in our area now, and we get to see him on holidays and things like that. So we're excited for him and his future, and he is now going to be utilizing some funds that are available through the Baptist Children's Home, and I think he's going to go to a heavy equipment operator school. Mm-hmm. So it's great that there's so many resources out there that we can help these, and we call Austin our unicorn because he's going to college, that these kids can utilize, and again, wildly successful is how I like to describe what his future is going to be because of the community of help that's around him.
Right, yes. So my other question for you, Mom, is, everyone wants a toddler. Everyone I meet, they're like, I just want a baby, and for me, I try to tell them like, hey, actually, yes, the babies need help, but our teens need the most because they don't have much time left, Sure. And on the other end, there's nothing good, Right. What would you tell someone who's afraid of teenagers? What would you encourage them? What would you inspire them to?
If I told you, I would be talking to myself 15, 25 years ago. Don't be scared. God's got it. Fear's not in his book for us. Unfortunately, we sat there and heard the lies that were whispered to us. Be worried, be scared. They come with baggage. This has happened to them. Terrible things have happened. They're going to steal from you. They're going to lie. You're not going to know what's going to happen. And I'm sure that might have happened to someone. We've had 3 young men now and have been totally blessed by all 3 of them.
All 3 of them wildly different backgrounds.
Correct, yeah.
And all 3 of them, I look at the situation with my bios who were raised from infants, struggling more than these young men. They hit the ground running,
right.
And it was amazing. I see Austin's potential and everything he's done, knowing the struggle that he had prior growing up. Children don't understand that struggle a lot of times.
Correct.
Because it's normal to them. When he came to us, he just hit the ground running. He is our social butterfly. Everybody in church loves him. He got involved with some fabulous groups, FCA. He does leadership. They've flown him to Texas to do leadership training. He goes and meets men at not my favorite place, but Starbucks. Yeah.
Well, when we posted he sent me a little glimpse of like 7 seconds of his name. People watch his face and things were bought in an hour. I'm like, and right now people are like, the list is gone. Why should I buy for Austin? I'm like, it's all covered, Yeah. It's amazing sometimes the presence of who they are, and that's why we love when they get to say their name and where they're
Sure.
going, that even that small video, that it really inspires other kids and families too,
Right.
to see the smile and say, I have hope for the same for my child as I see in
Right.
Austin,
Well, when he came to us, of course, he was just in the foster program. We did end up doing the guardianship. And I remember at one point when he heard we were crossing over, when they asked us if we would do the guardianship, he said, "You do that for me?" And to us, it was just a strange question. You've already been here a year. I don't understand what the difference would be other than you don't have to do your monthly check-ins and then we get
social workers,
and then we
all
get
that.
to beat him like he's ours, which was that was the fun part.
That was the fun part.
But another time he asked me, "Well, how do you choose foster kids?" And I just said, I just ask for tall boys because I'm not very tall.
Somebody's got to get the pepper out of
The
it.
pepper
Somebody's
out
gotta get
of the
That's
cabinet.
right. I can't reach the tall cabinet.
Yes, and
So-
I tell people too. You know, I think for me, I get accused. You know, because my kids look different than me. They're
Right.
like, "Well, but why do you choose them?" I'm like, "No, I get a phone call at 3 a.m.
Right.
You know, I get a
Yes.
phone call. Hey, can you pick up the child at the hospital? Or sometimes at the police station.
Sure.
Or sometimes I meet a social worker at the office. You know, they exchange like, I have the child. Here you go with one diaper. You know. Our kids don't choose to come to our home. It's not like they're in a room waiting, you know.
Right.
And foster care isn't like a holiday. Like they just choose to come to your home, or you just go pick up who you want. Like it's not how it's done. You
Right.
know.
I think the only time we've talked about it, prayed about it, rejected a child, and whether it was good or bad, I don't know. But we already had young men in the house, and it was a pregnant teen.
Right.
And I just didn't know if that would be a good fit for our family at the time. But she did have options. She didn't start with or end with us.
Right.
But-
She wound up staying with our daughter for a week, and it was she was going to be a challenge. But like Debbie said, there were other options. And there's times that you can take a child for a week.
And you find out like you're not a match, you know.
Yeah.
And most time I say that's loving a child that you're willing to say, I'm not equipped enough to take care of this child. That I prefer someone well trained or well equipped to take that child. It's not rejection. It's just like I'm not gonna be the best parent to really
Right.
face that. Also, I'm trying to teach people about trauma. Like trauma is part of our kids. Like when I get my kids, I know they have whatever baggage they have, you know, because I was one of them. You know, I grew up as a street kid, and someone who saw me saw the best in me where nobody could see me. I was a thief, dirty, name all you could think about. But he saw the best in me, you know, and that's what I try to really share with people, especially parents. Like, trauma is part of the journey of our kids. They have it, and I have to love them as who they are, not what I want them to be, you know. And in that way, it really helps me to know that I'm there to help the child. I'm not looking for a perfect child, but I know my kids have an issue, and I gotta carry them through, you know. So for you, how did you get to be a little bit trained on a trauma side?
I am not the one to answer that question. I probably am part of the trauma in some kids' lives. I want stuff done my way quickly, don't I, Austin?
Yeah.
But in that, the world isn't going to be easy on them either.
Right.
So when I'm being strict, when I'm having high expectations, them learning to work through, because we're not going to let them fall.
That's the love we have for them.
Yes, we are still going to have those high expectations because a lot of them have been through such rough stuff. And one of our foster kids, his mother died in a car accident, a four-wheeler accident, and his father was in prison, and there was drug use and multiple half-siblings on all over the place, most of the children in some kind of system. And he dealt with trauma by lying. And we just continually called him on it. And he's a very smart kid, and he's going to be successful because of that. But that trauma he had gone through, he had come up with his own coping mechanism.
Right.
And sometimes those coping mechanisms aren't healthy. So calling it out, saying what it is, and that it'd be better if you just dealt with what's going on instead of trying to pretend like it wasn't there is the best. We have sought mental health care for the kids and have found it to be hard to get.
Yes.
The counselors are people maybe we don't respect, or they don't answer phone calls or things like that. So one of the things that I've encouraged, and that is something you hit on a second ago, that Austin has coffee with some of the men from church, is expose them to other people to mentor them.
Yeah.
Otis and his family have been a big part in mentoring when they were local. They've since moved further away from us, but if your foster children aren't from your culture, finding someone who's closer to their culture to help mentor is always going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So that's something that we worked on. when it was needed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so we're gonna do your room makeover. Not like we do it for the love of your parents. We know they can do that, but we're kind of saying, hey, for this time, could we take the stress away so we can do all this for you? One, to appreciate what they've done, but also to encourage you. And you don't have to worry about where am I gonna get the bed, where the bed sheets are. For one time that we get to come alongside you and say, hey, there are people who want to help. There are people who want to give that will never be forced upon, but they want to do something small, and this is when we chime in. So you doing it is really honoring us, and also others who are not familiar with foster care or are not familiar with kids, but we're giving them we call it close proximity,
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, but can I introduce you to someone really unique that can see? But also too, you get to encourage others as well. Most of us, me included, sometimes I have things where I'm struggling, wondering, what is there a light at the end of the tunnel? And I think watching you just gives me that, that assurance, that despite of the struggles I go through with my 13, 12-year-old, like really there's the end of the tunnel somewhere, and we appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate y'all.
Yes. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you, our village.
When I was a kid, I didn't have a place to call home, and so that's what we're trying to do here is promote those room makeovers and such to help kids find a forever home.
Absolutely. We want to do room makeovers for mostly teens and foster parents. And here's how you can help you. You can donate by clicking the link in the bio so we can do more room makeovers for teens so they feel they are heard, seen, and done. We cannot do it alone. With your help, we will truly help as many teens as we can.
Yep.